Hello everyone, how are you today? My name is Dev Kulkarni, and today I would like to talk about SAP connector that eQube-BI has. This is an SAP certified connector, and basically this connector works in two different fashions. It depends on what kind of expertise the user has while creating the reports in eQube-BI. So if you are an expert, then you would actually use the BAPIs. So you would be familiar with all the BAPIs that are there in SAP. It's not an easy job because there are tens of thousands of BAPIs that one would need to know. The other uses the object model of SAP, and this would be targeted for those who are not very familiar with the SAP model. Now, I'll first walk you through the BAPI connector that we have. So what I will do is log into the admin screen and then show you the connection, and we take it from there. So what you see is the admin console screen of eQube-BI. We're going to click into application connectors. There you see the SAP connector, and so there are various parameters of the SAP connector, and what you also see is two types of data models that can be used. In this case, both of them are checked, so both of them are enabled. You have the business object-based model and the BAPI RFC-based model. So I'm going to show you how the report is created first using the BAPIs. So we then log out of this and log into Build and Play. Build and Play is the module in which the user can either see reports or create new reports. So simply go into Create Cube, and we give some name over here, which is Sales Order Dashboard in this case. Selecting the connection, SAP. Now, what we are expected to do is create nodes on a canvas. So in order to get sales information, what we need is basically two things. One is information about the customer and information about the sales orders. So what we're trying to do is get to customer information first. And now I would obviously need to know which BAPI to use in this case, and that's the BAPI that I'm selecting here. BAPI Customer Get Detail is the BAPI that's in question here. And we see some of the attributes. Select the attributes that are of interest to us and go next. Click on More Attributes. Now, I might need to have some predicates, but in this case I have not selected any. So that's the first node that I got, that is related to customer information. Now what I need to get is the sales order. So I give this node a certain name, in this case sales order level, and select the specific BAPI, which is get list in this case. Now there has to be some way to relate the sales order to the customers that are of interest over here. So we have the previous node which is related to customers, and we somehow need to relate it to the sales order, and that's what I'm trying to do here. So this new node that I'm creating is related to the customer level in some way. So I'm selecting customer level, and then the customer number in the sales order is the same as that of the customer number in the customer details, and that's how a relation is being created in eQube-BI. Now also what I would like to do is that the first or the driving column of the report, I would like to specify which column or which attribute I would like to see in the report. So I click on this icon here and then select the particular attribute that I wish to display. So I have this particular attribute which will be displayed as the driving column of the report. And then select other attributes of sales order that I wish to have in the final report. So pretty much done here, finish. Now I see two nodes on this canvas. They have an interrelationship of the relation that we defined. The customer number is common in customer information as compared to the sales order. Now I'm trying to specify what attributes should be a filter in this report. Obviously you don't want to run the report and get all information from SAP. You are interested to limit the report based on filters. This is how you configure a filter. Now we are actually running the report. So while running the report, this screen pops up, which is the filter screen, and I can enter various sales orders here, and there I have the report. So it's really quite simple to create the report from ground up. The prerequisite is that the user must know all the BAPIs in SAP when he wants to create a report. Mind you, this information is dynamic, so you can actually drill down, drill up, actually do your analysis. You can further do slicing and dicing of this information. What we just did is collapse the information, so what you see now is at the level where only the customer information is being displayed. If you drill down and click on the plus sign, you would see all the sales order related to each of the customers, say Barney Rogers or Christopher and so on. So let's go back and look at the view, but this time let's take a different perspective of the view that we had created, or the cube that we had created earlier. Earlier we had used what we call as the semantic view, and what you see here is a tabular view of the same information that we are about to fetch from SAP. So what you see is the first thing that we do is get the customer level. So what is highlighted is the BAPI which fetches customer information, and the second line is the BAPI meant for fetching the sales order information. What I also want to show you is this, which is the relation that we had put into the system, which is relating the customer numbers in the two different BAPIs. The key thing to remember here is that the user needs to know this information. It's not something that he would know if he was, just the end user. So yes, it does need to have some knowledge of SAP in order to build such a report. So now here was a view of how a report can be built using BAPIs. We have now built an abstraction layer on top of this, and it uses SAP's business object model, as they call it. But before I go into that, what I would like to do is walk you through this picture here on the screen, and this basically describes what a business object is. And so by definition, a business object is a real-world entity type, a self-contained independent business concept that is well known in the business world. Now the intricacies of it may not be known to the individual. Business types of objects are material, customer order, sales order, vendor and purchase order information, and so on. Now in SAP you have these business objects built in. So if you see on the left hand side, that is a business object for sales order and so on. It describes the sales order on the right hand side, and what you see in pink on the top is are the various attributes associated with the sales order. But the difficulty over here in SAP is that not all business objects have access directly to the attributes. It translates further to different methods or BAPIs, which can fetch different set of attributes. So if you wanted to get let's say 5 attributes, not all 5 might come from a single method. They might come from multiple methods. What eQube-BI connector for SAP has done is that it has made all of this transparent to the user. So when you fetch an object, and all its associated attributes are seen as part of the objects, what exact method is being called in turn is transparent to the user. The system knows how to do that. All that you see is sales order dot whatever attribute that you are interested in. That's the attribute you would get. How it happens, it all happens behind the scenes, which is done by the eQube-BI connector itself, which actually makes it extremely easy to build reports from SAP very quickly, and the user need not have a whole lot of knowledge about SAP at all. Now, let's get back to eQube-BI. So remember, this time we are going to use business objects that are available in SAP. Again, I'm logging into Build and Play, create a cube, Now, because if you remember the connection attributes, we had selected BAPI as well as business objects. So what we actually see in all of the BAPIs listed in the screen, it shows the objects, it shows the BAPIs as well. But this time what we will do is select the object rather than an individual BAPI. So there is a BAPI which is related to customers. So again, I create a node called customer level, and the object related to this is customer. So what we see is all the attributes related to customers. Remember, these attributes are not necessarily coming from one single method. It could be coming from multiple methods. But that's not known to the user. It happens transparently. If you notice on the screen over here, Predicates and Filters. Here the system has already figured out what filters you might need to use in this report, and we just need to keep it that way or remove it. In the earlier example, we needed to enter the name of the filters that we wanted to use in the report. Now we get the sales order. Now remember, we are not selecting a BAPI here, we are selecting an object. Now, when it comes to the relation, the system does know what the relation ought to be. In the earlier example, the user needed to figure out what that should be, and he needed to figure out that the customer number in the sales order is equal to the customer number in the customer BAPI. In this case, the system has figured it out for the user. It makes it that much simpler for the user to create a report. Also, the user did not need to specify what the first column or the driving column should be, because the system already knows that typically this is what the first column ought to be. And so there was no need to override it. And as usual, we just go and select all the attributes related to the sales order. Now the revenue over here is a calculated field because it is a multiplication of an attribute with some number with the quantity. In order to do that, I am not showing that over here, but it's already there in the system. There we have the predicates. I've removed the predicates in this case, but that was what was suggested by the system. So here's another view. So we went to another tab of this report while in creation, and it's showing what data the system is going to show up with. What you see on the right hand side is lookup values. So when you set up filter values, the system has figured out what the values ought to be, and it's created a table. Not only that, it would have the IDs mashed up with the names or the labels. So those who are familiar with SAP will know that SAP is more ID centric. So if you needed to show more friendly display of names rather than IDs, then you would have to do something in order to show the names to the end user. In this case, the system builds it out of the box. Here we are trying to run the report now. The system goes and fetches the lookup values, and we can select whatever values we wish to supply as the filter value. And in this case, we are selecting multiple customer names. So it becomes that much easier, as I was mentioning earlier, to select by seeing the name without having to really write additional logic, because the system has done it for you. Fetch the data, and there we have a report, sales dashboard. Very similar to the earlier report, but this one is using SAP business objects. You're seeing sales order per customer, showing a graph, showing the distribution now in a pie chart, which we can click through, drill down, drill up. There are further refinements that we could do. We might want to have different perspectives of the same information. Perhaps two different users want little different information. In that case, we can slice this report in the way each of the user wants it. Let's go back into the view and take a look at what you see is the previous view that we had here, and here is the tabular view. The source, if you remember, had BAPIs earlier. You do not have BAPIs names here. You've got object names here. and the relation that you see is a different relation. It's a relation that has come out of the box. Some of the attributes that are shown in the report. So there you are. As you saw, using the business object model of SAP, it becomes simpler to create reports out of SAP. The user need not know a whole lot of knowledge that he would otherwise need to have on SAP. The way the system figures out what the filter values ought to be, how it builds the list of tables or list of values for the filters is automatic. The IDs and the labels are displayed together. All of this work is done for you in eQube-BI behind the scenes. Thanks. Thank you for watching.